Hey, welcome to What You Doin' with Brandon Horwin.
And Sophie Williams. And today's special guest is.
Hey everybody, I'm Ahmad Simmons. I'm a performer, producer, and creator based here in New York City.
Awesome. Well, welcome to What You Doin'. We're pumped to have you on today. Thanks for joining us.
I'm excited. I appreciate it.
And we're excited to talk about your incredible and ever-growing career. So just to start out, can you just tell us a little bit about your journey to theater, how you got your start, and where some of the steps led you to New York City?
Yeah, my journey to theater. Honestly, it was sort of winding, but because initially it came through music. I grew up in Texas and was raised by my great aunt, who at the time and still today directs all of the choirs at the church I grew up at. And so I always sang. I always had to sing in church because of that. And my family were singers. And so it was initially through singing in church. She also put me in piano lessons when I was younger. So I was sort of bit by that musician bug playing in church services. And then she also was the one who got me into an audition for an organization called the Texas Boys Choir, which at the time was its own school. It was 50 boys in this private school, and they spent most of the time actually on the road performing in churches and different venues and for different occasions. I knew nothing about it. This had to have been third or fourth grade. I was still in elementary school at a public elementary school. But my music teacher at that elementary school was the one, actually, yeah, she was the one that was like, hey, do you know who the Texas Boys Choir is? And I'm like, absolutely not. Can I go have recess? But of course, my great aunt, my uncle encouraged me to do it. And so I auditioned, and it was the first time I heard the word solfege. It was the first time I was reading music. I was like, what is this all about? But I, I was enthusiastic. I loved rhythm. I remember there being a rhythm test where you had to bang out rhythms. And I could definitely match pitch, you know? And so I got in, and literally that's the organization I stayed with fourth through 12th grade. That organization that started with a boys choir of 50 turned into a charter school, turned into a larger fine arts school called the Fort Worth Academy of Fine Arts. And so there, from singing, is when I got introduced to dance, and from dance is when got introduced to theater. So theater actually found me in high school um, through the musicals there at my fine arts school. I think the first one we did was How to Succeed in Business Without Really Trying, and I was Bud Frump. Uh, and I was like, oh my gosh, this is so fun. That character is so fun. This world is so fun. It's not as restricting as, just singing with a robe and a ruff on. And I loved it. So for the first time, I felt like, oh my gosh, all of the things that I've been doing, I can do with one thing, musical theater. Wow. Um, and so from there, I couldn't stop. We did more shows every year. We do a different musical, and then come time for college, I was like, wow, do I dance? Do I do musical theater? I like both. I want to be a conductor. What should I do? And I found Point Park University, where you could audition for both programs in the same week. Went, did both auditions. Dance program gave me like a few $1,000s more. So I was like, they gave me more money. I'm gonna do this. So I got a dance degree. I stopped doing musical theater in school, and was dancing, like strict modern jazz dance concentration during the school year. But in the summers, I would do summer stock. So I was actually able to get my equity card and to learn how to be in shows professionally in summer stock with the Pittsburgh Civic Light Opera. And it was through those connections that I actually was able to come to the city in 2015 with an equity card and go to my first, audition, and set sail here. So it was winding road. Long answer to say it was a winding road to theater.
Yeah, so how did all of that translate into Broadway? Like, what was your Broadway debut? How did that, kind of get set up then for you?
Yeah, Broadway, I initially didn't move to New York for Broadway. I moved to New York to dance with Parsons Dance Company.
Mm.
Um, and about a year in, I was feeling like I needed a change, a change of pace. I'd done the concert dance world for 5 years. I was creating in that world and I loved it. But it's really tough. And you don't make a ton of money in some of those places. And so I'm 27 when I get to New York, and I had an equity card from shows I did 5 years ago, the first one being Cats, and saw there is an audition for the revival of Cats here, choreographed by Andy Blankenbuehler. And I was like, oh man, is this a sign? I've always loved the show. I had the VHS and I wanted to be Rum Tum Tugger growing up. Like, is this a sign that I should go to this thing? I don't really have an agent yet. I don't know what that is, but I know I want to dance. So I actually went to an open call initially for Cats. And through the open call and through a round of auditions, was able to make my debut doing the same role as I did to get my equity card with in 2007. So sort of full circle in that way to get to Broadway. But yeah, it was initially through an open call.
Yeah, that's amazing. So moving on in a similar vein, you also performed in the revival of Carousel. So what was it like just being able to be on stage and dance with, real, oh
Ah,
my
there
God,
it is.
is that a Carousel Yeti?
I didn't know what to do with these stickers, but
Well, it's
yes,
very fancy.
yes. So I love that you said that.
So what was it like just being able to perform such a beloved and classic musical with
Mm.
some of the biggest stars like Renee Fleming and Joshua Henry, Justin Mueller,
Oh
Lindsay
man.
Mendez?
I mean, you say those names and like I just smile because it just felt like such a like learning. I was just learning so much that whole experience. Um, to watch Renee Fleming, who's like legendary, a star, international opera star, coming to the musical theater world with totally open arms and also learning, to watch her learn and her be okay with us watching her learn, that was an amazing experience. And musical theater star-studded cast also allowed us um, as an ensemble to wear a sort of badge of honor, to say like, yeah, we've gotten to a place where we're all sharing this experience, and there you don't feel the divide um, between who you are and who I am. And that's a lot of what the director does. It's a lot of what Justin Peck did as a choreographer. Like I was working on the show a year before we even started rehearsals for the show, just with Justin making, this number Blow High. And so it actually allowed me a little bit of an entry into the world before day one of rehearsal, a lot of us. But then, like I said, getting there, we all felt like, wow, this is such a responsibility. This is such a classic piece in the American canon and musical theater canon. And we get to be a part of reimagining it um, in whatever way that wants to take place, right? But we say we're on the ride. So I loved that experience. I loved understudying Amar, that was really wonderful, and being able to go on for that role and playing scenes with Josh and Jesse and Lindsay, and just learning on the job has just kind of been the theme of my life so far. Yeah.
Yeah, that was an amazing production in every
Thanks.
aspect. It really was. You were also part of the workers chorus for the reigning, it's funny to think that it's still the reigning Tony-winning Best
Oh.
Musical because of the
Oh yeah.
pandemic. So that's pretty cool to still be able to
Wow.
say at this moment in time. And that's the Tony-winning musical Hadestown. So can you share with us a little bit about the process of, you were also working with theater legends in that process as well, and you were creating a truly innovative piece of theater. So a little bit about that process, and what would you say your biggest takeaway was from that show?
Mm. Yeah, that process was reflected in the show you saw. And I say that because there's a warmth there. Um, it's inviting. It allows you to drop your shoulders and open your heart. It pulls you in to the text, not only because the way it's delivered by legendary Andre de Shields, but like because of the way it's written by Aeneas and because where it's how it's focused, by Rachel and David. Um, so it wore that production on stage wore its process heart, and that process was ever changing. I mean, Hadestown had a long life before I joined it for the Broadway stint, you know, um, but even still, things were changing rapidly, like daily new pages of lyrics. I mean, the work Aeneas was doing, rewriting things, changing, reorganizing, I mean, to see all of that firing and happening in real time, and to be a part of the DNA of it was really great, because we're making the steps for that too. There was never a workers chorus before Broadway, so um, we made it. We had to justify our being there, along with the creative team, but a lot of that responsibility was graciously put on us individually too, which we all appreciated, to be able to, you should have an opinion, as a collaborator, not just an actor, but you're invited to collaborate in that space. And I'm just so glad it has the life it does now, that people, because it's my favorite. I believe in it so much. It's still my favorite. So it's cool to see that everybody really holds it and continue to let the lessons of it unfold, like literally today and yesterday, and seeing the way we're getting closer to being back. And it's all cyclic. It's all in the show. Like everything we talk about is in that show. And then Andre de Shields, again, an idol of mine, to learn from him daily, to understudy him. Uh, Again, he's just so gracious and supportive and doesn't withhold anything. So I learned a lot about myself as a performer just from him, and who I want to be, like long range, patience, in the industry.
Absolutely. And still on the Hadestown topic, so since it is technically still the winner of Best Musical and the reigning title of that, can you talk a little bit about Tony Night and performing one of the numbers from the show that has already made a big splash in New York at that moment in time, and then it going on to win Best Musical that night? How was that night like for you?
Nail biting. I mean, we're all so anxious, and we were less anxious about who was going to win and more anxious about not messing up the lamp throw, to be honest. It's like, that is not a, that is, man, like we do that. And so it's timed by, the cast. And so all of my worry was there. I was like, just don't, whatever you do, don't mess up the lights in Radio City. No, but yeah, it was exciting. The rest is exciting because at that point you opened the show and you hadn't closed yet. So you've already won. You know what I mean? You're still running. So you've won, and you've been nominated and you've been recognized. So you've won. So that night it's just about, how much further into the culture and worldwide can we make the message of the show. It just so happened we won a lot that night, and I have some great pictures of seeing Rachel come off the stage and Jessica, everybody come off the stage and us being able to hug them and just celebrate, going into that performance, um, and then to win. I mean, afterwards, I remember we were at, what's the bar? Is it Glass House? Glass House Tavern. We were at we had our little thing at Glass House Tavern. That's where we were when it was announced, you know. Because most people think you perform at the Tonys and you go and sit and you have your tux on. When unless you're nominated, like personally, a lot of people, you have to pay for it, so they always have a party for you to be at afterwards. And yeah, so I remember we were there, and when they announced it, we just like sliders flying everywhere, champagne just wasted, everywhere. Um, so much celebrating, hugging. Um, yeah, I mean, that was awesome. And then we went to our Hadestown Tony Awards party, and it was epic. Rachel, everybody coming in with their trophies and big smiles, and then you go to the Carlisle, and it's such a fun night to celebrate, and everybody's a part of it. It just means that we get to go back to work in the next day. And that, a lot of shows don't make it there. And so it's a big celebration.
Yeah. Well, following Hadestown, you went on to be a part of the West Side Story revival. And it's notorious for, having kind of a new look, a fresh take, cutting some songs. So what do you think about this revival of West Side Story really sets it apart from other revivals of West Side Story and other productions?
There's a lot. I mean, it's the first time we are bringing ourselves away from that iconic choreography, the Robins, on a main stage like this. And so that pressure alone is huge. Um, and on top of that, Evo's concept of the show, the design of the show, it's just, I mean, it's a reinvention. I mean, it's hard to say, or even a revival. Like, it really is, like, it was like making a new show. And even going between like the stage and screen world, it's like, yes, you're playing to the audience of over 1,000 out there, but you have the angle of the camera that you have to hit right here, because that's bigger than you are behind you, right? And there's so many things to think about in there, but it also took a while to get there. We did over 70 previews of West Side before we opened. And it was constantly changing, big changes. And so, yeah, there's a lot that is a departure from the original, but rightly so. If you're going to do a new work, if you're going to do a revival, you have to revive. There has to be something different. And it's divisive and polarizing in a way. And it's theater. Like, that's what it has to be, Otherwise, why pay $150 or more to go and see something? That's my personal opinion. Obviously, it's not what Broadway was built on, but it's certainly a part of who we are and where we want to go. But yeah, the music, you can't deny the music. Were you able to see it? Did you see it at all?
Did you get a chance to see it?
No. Mm-mm.
Yeah, yeah.
No.
Well, it's still like an orchestra of over 20 people. And, so it's still beautiful sweeping, and you feel it. It's a lot shorter. It's more brutal. And I mean that in the way of like, it doesn't stop. Like, it forces you to go along with what's happening. And Elemental, there's a lot of things that happen in this show that, physically, that are really demanding.
Yeah.
But a real experience.
Yeah. So that also being said, we have an audience of performing artists, aspiring young artists. Performing a Broadway show 8 times a week, how are you keeping up your physical health? How are you not getting injured as a dancer? Can you go through some of the ways you really maintain your health while, performing such a rigorous job?
Yeah, well, the truth is, you do get injured sometimes, I certainly have, and luckily it hasn't been anything that is career ending. But uh, no matter how fine-tuned your machine is, at some point you need service, and that service for a Broadway show comes in the form of massage therapy, physical therapy that's on site that you can sign up for, but it's also the pre-show. How are you warming up for the show? personally? Are you going to any kind of yoga classes? What do you do to maintain, to do the opposite, of your body, to lengthen your body? What are you doing to cool your body down after all of that physicality, to bring your body back to neutral? It's certainly important to me. And then what are you putting in your body? I mean, me personally, I have to eat a lot to get through a show. But there are some people that can't eat before a show, that can only eat after a show, and they can only eat the certain things. Like there are some people who like can only eat quinoa, chicken, and a green. That's all they eat every night before the show because they know exactly, and everybody is so different. Me though, I have to tailor my body's warm up to what the show is. So it'd be different. Cats is a totally different warm up than West Side, and yeah. So it's based on what the show is for me. Yeah, but then mentally is a big thing too. But I don't know if you want to get into all that.
So you also starred in the Emmy-winning TV series Bossy Bearden as the iconic Ben Vereen. So, how was it like working on that masterpiece of a television series with famed theatrical television and movie performers? And what challenges did you face creating that sort of iconic role, playing such an iconic individual who had a mark on history that was told in that particular story?
The challenge for me was not to mimic him or not to try and be him, because that it doesn't work. There's only one him. So my biggest challenge was to say, what is the essence? What is the lesson? What did he bring? And where do I meet that? And how can my person enhance that world for what we're doing without me trying to be a copy of him? Because nobody wants to see themselves copied like that. And he's still living, and I was able to talk with him, have lunch, to talk about that. And it was one of the biggest things he told me was like, you have to do you. It's like, it's an honor, but you have to do you. And that was really important for me to hear, because it sort of freed me from this world of, okay, I have to do exactly what he does with the eyes. I mean, you as an audience, you have to recognize who I'm playing, but it's still me playing this legend. The great thing about that process, though, is it was so many theater people. It's theater folks, so I felt more at home because it was people that I knew from the theater world. And so that layer of anxiety of like, oh, this is TV, it's a totally different thing. How do I act? How do I be? Was taken away in rehearsals, you know. But yeah, it was wonderful. And it's always cool to like book a job where a bunch of your friends in the city are doing it too. It just reminds you of how small the community is and how loving the community is and supportive, and how we're all going to be on this together forever. And we'll have that as a treasure of that time to watch. And we'll be like, oh, remember when we did that together? Where on stage, unless it's an archival piece or there's a bootleg on YouTube, you don't always get to do that. So I appreciate that treasure of remembering the time and where we were.
Yeah. So as I previously said, our audience is composed of many young artists, many aspiring young artists. So what would you say led you to find your voice or really find your place in theater in New York City?
What led me to find my voice? I mean, I think what's more helpful if we're talking to young artists is to say that you will always be finding your voice, because time always moves and life is always changing. As we've seen with Broadway, it's going to be a completely different feel.
Yeah.
Right. So what's important when it comes to finding your voice is that's just fancy words for knowing who you are, what you believe in, and what you want to put out. Like that's it. Is like trusting your own singularity and validating yourself and saying, yes, what I value, others value too, and that's important, and we can share that. Because it, just so it doesn't feel so abstract, because it's like when you say finding your voice, and I'm not, we all say it, but then when you really dissect it, it's like, oh man, it feels like it's something that's in the ether, but it's not. What you really mean, what we all really mean is like listening to what's already there, shaking your head yes to it, and then sharing it.
Mm,
You know what I mean?
yeah.
Yeah, yeah. So
No,
it's there.
that's great. I really love that answer. So what have you been up to in the past year with the shutdown and everything? How was that like for you? You were in the middle of West Side Story. That must have been crazy.
Yeah, I was 2 blocks down at the gym, coming out of the gym, and the girl at the front desk was like, "Hey, so what's going on? Are you okay?" And I was like, "Oh, what do you mean? I'm going to work." She's like, "Well, apparently the shows are going to be canceled tonight." I was like, "Huh?" I'm like, "I did this workout for what? For nothing?" No. And so when I went to the theater, of course, everybody's standing around, just like, "Yeah, I don't know. Have you heard?" Da, 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 da. And at the time, we thought, "Great, we'll have a week off. Whew, this is nice. We could use it. Oh my gosh, our body's gonna heal a little bit. We'll sleep, and we'll come back. I'll see y'all later." So we didn't take it. I didn't take anything. Um, and for my dressing room, anything. It was just like, "Okay, yeah, we'll be back. See y'all later." Then, it just obviously kept going. And so after the roller coaster early on of like, okay, well, what does this actually mean for us? And money, like, to be honest, everybody going, okay, well, great. So are y'all going to still pay us? After all of that had died down, I spent some time uh, in Texas, where I'm from, seeing family, because I was like, look, I haven't seen family for more than a week in 4 years. So let me go and take this time before we go back to work in June, right? That's what everybody's thinking. Let me go see my family. Let me go vacation before I come back. And that ended up being a nice stay for me. Um, and then I just got to work, quite honestly, because I realized at home the value of the time, because I'd spent 4 or 5 years, 8 show a week, which meant so many of my own personal dreams. Talk about finding your voice, right? So many of the things that I wanted to do, I didn't realize how far back in my mind they were. My own creativity, the stories I wanted to usher into the world, the people I wanted to have lunch with, the creative conversations with colleagues that I never had. That was always like, oh yeah, yeah, next week. And then that turned into 4 years because you were doing 8 shows a week. I got to work. And that took the form of starting organizations with people that are going to help people that look like me when we do come back have more agency and stock in what we're doing. That took the form of being a part of a board of Foster's Residency, which is something that is nurturing artists, playwrights, directors, um, with their new work, and just saying, hey, come make your thing, we'll take care of you. You don't have to prove anything to us. That took the form of joining the advisory board of Black Broadway Men, a fraternity for Black men in theater, to say, oh, we're all together. Yeah, you maybe 2 of you in that show, and this is the Black show, so that's all of you here and one of you there. But what does that really mean? We're all together. We're all in this together. So joining that and bringing that together, honoring our legacy, that took the form of me writing more, me saying yes to help produce, choreograph, or direct Broadway Cares benefit for Halloween. It took the form of me connecting with my university about building a show there. Um, and also auditing a class. Like, I'm auditing a class right now at Princeton, which has been awesome. Um, so I just got to work and realized that there's a value in this time, and there are things that I would never be able to do had we not been stopped. So now I'm going to go back to the theater with more things you know, um, than just, oh, give me a job. I want to dance on stage, right? Which we get stuck in sometimes. So now it's like, no, I'm a theater maker. So whatever form that takes, that's what I'll do. Yeah.
That's amazing. Thank you for sharing that journey with us, and everything with such heart, because it's inspiring to hear what you've been up to. Which sort of couples with my next question. What advice can you offer to young folks, students, and aspiring artists, future industry professionals who may, be a bit lost in finding their career paths at the moment, especially with the chaotic, world around us? What advice do you have for them as they try to push through and craft their own careers?
Yeah. I've been talking about this a lot with um, people your age, with a lot of students I'm mentoring, either coming right out of college and just moved to the city, or um, coming right out of high school and thinking about going to college for the arts and are saying, oh, does that even make sense anymore? And what I tell people is, if you have a heart for anything, like if you have a real bleeding heart for something, nothing will stop you from doing it, right? That's anything. If you have a heart for customer service, um, if you have a heart for community service, no time, no devastation will keep you away from doing it, right? So you have to think of this, for my theater folk, as an opportunity while we're all on this level, right? This is going away, patriarchy, like horizontal governance, right? We're all here right now. So this podcast is just as important as any Broadway show. So we all have this opportunity right now to be of the utmost importance. Right? So whatever you do is going to make a difference, to somebody, right? In any way. So if you have a bleeding heart for it, it will come true. You just have to be ready for it not to be linear. That's the thing,
Mm.
right? There's no promise that it's going to be a straight road. And
Yeah.
you shouldn't want it to be. There's no fun in that, right? There are a lot of people who've had success that way, and they're billionaires because they had that upper mobility, because that's exactly where they were going to go since they were 5. Awesome. But what are they doing now? They're all like, well, where do I put my money? How do I enhance my life? How do I give myself more life experiences? So let it be windy, let it be curvy. And as long as you have that passion and that goal at the front of your head, that you're chasing with your nose, you're going to be fine. You're going to be fine. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, just kind of winding down in the questions now. Is there a favorite theatrical performance experience, something you've had, or someone that you loved working with? Any of the above?
Oh, that's a lot of which one? Like something I've seen?
Something you've been a part of, someone
Something
you've worked with,
oh man, yeah. Something I've
something that
seen.
changed your life, anything. We'd love to hear it.
Anytime I see Bilty Jones's work, my life has changed, because I'm reminded of the power of abstraction, and how modern dance, contemporary dance, can be abstract and still be accessible, and people can still get a story from it, and you can still craft an experience from it, and it doesn't have to be avant-garde. Um, I saw a production of Yerma at the Park Avenue Armory that was pretty life-changing because of the way the setting. It's almost like he set it in an aquarium. It was these glass, they were inside glass on 4 sides. And the uh, the setting, always, it was like on a scroll. So the floor would change like in black. It was incredible. So just like, oh my gosh, theater magic. That experience was pretty transformative. Anytime I watch like a Sammy Davis or Ben Vereen video, I'm changed, because it's just like, gosh, we all try too hard. We try way too hard to be cool, to be relevant, to do this, to do that. And those guys just oozed them. Just, I'm myself. and I'm bringing myself 100% to everything. An experience I've been in, I'd say any room where I get to create with an idol, which has been every show. You know, every show I've been in, I've gotten to create before we started the rehearsal process. I've been in the making of, and that's what I love. Yeah.
Yeah. Do you have a favorite like idol story about like meeting them or something like that, or any favorite story from your career that you'd like to share with us?
This is yeah. I mean, there's a lot, but the first one that I'll say the first one that came to my mind when I was like, oh my gosh, what a life this is. And we were having a party for Carousel. I don't know if it was like opening night. No, it couldn't have been opening night. It wasn't opening night. It was we were celebrating something as we did. We were at Bond 45. It's that Italian restaurant. I think it's right across, it's across from Tina, right? It's right there. It's right
Yeah,
next to,
next door to the Lund Fontaine.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Good brunch. But we were all, the Carousel cast was there, and they started playing music, right? And we were kind of a wild bunch in that way. So everybody starts to dance. And Anne Roth, the costume designer, right? Academy Award winner, legendary costume designer, over 80 years old, but the most sharp and fun. She gets up and she gets in the middle of our circle. And she starts dancing with us. And then she turns around and somehow I'm face to face with Anne, like doing some thing. And she's like looking at me and I'm like, oh my gosh. And as I'm doing that, it's like I stepped outside of my body. I saw the joy around us. Anne Roth is there. Jesse Mueller's there at the table, Lindsay. And I see Renee Fleming looking at us and smiling and moving. And I'm like, this is everything to me. It like that. So that's the first thing that came to my mind. And that was just so special because it reminded me that we all at our core, we want to have fun. We just want to enjoy our lives. It doesn't matter what we've done. We just want to enjoy our lives. So that's the first thing that comes to my mind.
Yeah.
Great. Well, thank you so much for joining us today. And, we're honored and thrilled to highlight your inspiring, remarkable career. And we're so excited to see what's next for you as well. I want to ask, is there anything we can promote on here for you today that you'd like our audiences to check out or be aware of?
Yeah, so definitely service the organizations that I'm with. So that's Black Broadway Men. That's Foster's Theatrical Artist Residency. Those are two very special places or special organizations to keep in touch with. Yeah, there's new work being made, but that's definitely not something I can say, but yeah, we'll put it out when it's ready, and we'll make sure everybody knows what it is.
Great. Well, thank you so much. This has been such a great conversation with you, and stay well and safe and healthy until we can all be in the theater again.
Yes.
Very soon together.
Yeah. Yeah. Thank you so much. Until we meet again at a theater.
Yeah. Thank you.
All right. Bye.
See ya.